All right. The moment you guys have been waiting for. The moment you guys have been waiting for. This is the report on the World of Warcraft numbers. Now, we know Blizzard does not report numbers. But there are ways to kind of get around that, you know, see based on maybe dungeon completion. I'm not sure how Bellular is getting these numbers. I'm sure he's going to explain it to us. But let's check out what the current state of World of Warcraft is. And the reason I believe this next expansion is going to be great. Because if this game was, you know, if Shadowlands was a resounding success in its current form, if it was a resounding success and we had record high sub numbers and everything, guess what? We'd be getting another Shadowlands for Dragonflight. But because of the massive drop-off in subs and everything, that's the reason we're getting a back to basics, a beautiful-looking expansion with great features and no more borrowed power. You know, it triggered the change. It triggered the change. So that's the good thing. We're going to check this video out. Let's see what the numbers are. I know Goose Duck was looking forward to this. He was talking about numbers early on in the chat. Let's see what the numbers are. Here we go.
I sure do have a video for you today. So, many people think that the Sepulchre nerf... Well, I sure do have a video for you today. So, many people think that the Sepulchre nerfs are getting out of hand. They don't like seeing the goalposts move with each nerf. But yet, we all know that Blizzard must have a reason to do this, right?
Right.
They must be doing this for some reason.
Because nobody's completed Sepulchre.
We have done a lot of data digging. We've got a pretty impressive set of sheets. We have now got the numbers. So that means it is time to learn why, even though it has made people angry, Sepulchre became the most nerfed raid in World of Warcraft's long history.
It was extremely opportune
even more
to come to
is
start.
they actually then announced even more nerfs after we started the video. It was targeted at getting the number of cutting-edge kills up before the end of Season 3.
There's only one more week left.
It's wild stuff, so strap in. Numbers first, explanation second. Rating, especially Mythic, is about smart use of time. It's about optimizing for the best returns. And it's no wonder that people who play MMOs like WoW,
Shadowlands bosses look bland,
end up getting into stocks, which of course have gone a bit down as of late. Now we all know that diversification...
Stocks have gone down, but to be fair to Blizzard, the entire market's down. So I don't know if that's anything related to the game. But yes, the stocks have gone down. And I'm sure, you know, bottom line, hey man, shit affects things. Shadowlands bosses look bland. I don't know. Some of the boss fights have been interesting. Anduin's a bitch.
Long-term investing results. And a new platform, today's sponsor, called Masterworks, is changing up that investing game by allowing you to invest in blue-chip art. Picasso, Banksy, Warhol, Monet.
It's his transition to a sponsor. That's what it is.
Accessible to the ultra
he got me again, man. I didn't see it coming.
Into art,
I watched this
advantage of it as a hedge against inflation.
Day you pre-watching our videos?
It does not correlate to stocks as much, making it awesome for diversification. Now, art is outperformed
Bellular got me. He totally fucking transitioned me. I wasn't even ready for it.
By 164% over the last 26 years. So what happens is Masterworks, they extensively research and purchase the art. They securitize
yeah, I've heard about this shit. You buy a painting and you own a portion of the painting.
Sell shares of that art.
And then you sell your portion.
Paintings sell at auction, and so far they've sold 4 paintings since 2017, netting over 25% annual rate of return to investors.
I ain't about this life.
Past performance is no guarantee of future results. I mean, legally, I've got to say that. It's also just true, and you should take that with any form of investing.
Yeah, bro. You're
now,
gambling.
Of course, though, with historical advantages and the benefits of diversification, demand has been very high for their platform, especially after their recent painting exit, so there's a wait list. But our viewers can get priority access
there you go.
by going to
masterworks.art/Bellular. There you go.
Clicking the link down below.
Click your fucking link.
Check them out. Could be an opportunity of interest to you. Okay, now we've paid the bills, let's talk about our first 3 months in numbers. They tell a clear but not complete story. So Nathria had 10,632 first boss kills and 422 final boss kills. For Sanctum, that's 7,510 dead Taragoose and 643 dead Sylvanuses. Now, the jailer may indeed be the uber hard, cool dude bro that the story thinks he is, because Mythic Sepulchre had just 3,808 first boss kills and a mere 177 final boss kills.
Look at the drop-off. Look at the drop-off. I've always said it, man. You fucking cleared this raid, but then you get to Anduin. Holy shit, do things get hard. This is the point where every boss one-shot kills. One-shot kill, one-shot kill, one-shot kill. You don't do the fucking mechanics right, you're getting one-shotted. That's tough, man. Anduin is a fucking drop-off. There's almost less Anduin kills than there were Sylvanas kills. Did you guys see? Sylvanas was like in the 600s. Anduin's 717. Damn. Oh my god, man. People got wrecked by fucking Anduin, and then the jailer is just ridiculously low.
Damn. Now, obviously, there is the, initial, like, first sort of week availability stuff, with the jailer, but I think across 3 months, that doesn't matter too much.
Damn.
Now,
wrecked.
That number is under half of Nathria. It's 3.6-ish times less than the Sanctum final boss kills. That tells a story, doesn't it?
Yeah.
That's just wild.
It's probably a mixture of player population and difficulty.
Does actually include many, many waves of nerfs. Now, this shows us that
Anduin was supposed to be a final boss. I agree, Day.
Fewer mythic guilds are going the distance. If first boss kills are a measure of mythic
Look at all the stars in the room. Holy shit.
Then, to be honest with you, the story is still grim because Sepulchre has half the participation of Sanctum.
Right.
But wait. It's just really hard. So what's the problem? Well, let's compare some boss sort of kill numbers as the weeks roll on. Now, this way we can actually see what the nerfs did. And, I mean, spoiler, this is big. Here's Halondrus. The big raid-wiping grab that we all love. The week before, April the 26th/7th nerfs, a total of 302 guilds had killed him across all regions. The week after, that number soars to 788, a 160% increase.
Literally nerfed into the ground.
I mean, does that not tell us all we need to know that these nerfs were indeed impactful?
Yeah.
Anduin Rin serves as another example then.
Anduin,
the week before he was nerfed on the 17th, 18th of May, 380 guilds had defeated him. The week after, that number is 608.
Almost double.
By the week before his second big nerf on June 21st, 1,077 guilds had killed him. The week after, with the new nerf, that was 1,221. So, not a whole lot more, but definitely still an increase.
Yeah, yeah.
Obviously, you would expect increases from week to week, but throughout the whole dataset, we do see a correlation between
those are big jumps,
nerfs and then increases in kills.
Yeah.
Though that said, we have seen a more...
Those are not just regular increases week to week. Those are big jumps. The nerfs certainly affected
diminishing
those.
Effect with further and further nerfs. So, this all seems a bit spooky. But how does it actually stack up with other raids? Well, one way that we can do that...
Goose Duck says, and then they buff the jailer's IQ, plotting skills, so he can nefariously mastermind everything. Yeah. Fuck the jailer. His story is shit.
Percentage of mythic guilds that got the cutting edge achievement within 3 months. Now, Emerald Nightmare kind of stands out for this one, but that's because Emerald Nightmare ended up being a total cakewalk.
Emerald Nightmare.
What's fascinating, though, is how low Nighthold and Tomb of Sargeras are at 1.86% and 1.55%.
Then always use another Death Knight.
Whoa, Draz, bro, thanks. Holy crap, Draz resubbed for 3 months now. Thanks, Mag, for the sub gift. Oh, there you go, Mag. Thanks for gifting the Draz sub. Thank you so much, Draz, for popping in here and resubbing, my man. Thank you so much.
World of Warcraft's most successful expansion have the lowest
Continuing to be a Death Knight of our skirts. Draz the Pally.
They were bloody hard. That's why. Nighthole had multiple rock-hard bosses, and Tomb of Sargeras was just infamous between Kil'jaeden and Fallen Avatar. So much so that Sepulchre has actually had people speaking of Kil'jaeden and Fallen Avatar again.
He gifted me 6 months worth of subs.
Boss kills, it does actually
That's right, Mag did. The gracious Mag, man. Also, good morning, everyone. What's up? Good morning, Draz.
Was actually highest
the generous, the ever so generous
Mag.
Mag.
Tier of BFA. A little bit of me wonders if the big popularity of the Race to World First as like a large live stream community event with loads of viewers and sponsors, if it kind of helped to notch up that participation.
Maybe.
Just a sort of a wondering thought. Now, you may notice
What's
that
up? Good morning, crew.
first boss kills are pretty low, and then greatly increases for Nighthold.
Gift locking
but
at
in more recent times, you can see very clear spikes
keep it locked in.
for the first raids of expansions, and then, ones that are, I think, far clearer when we go and we look at the heroic and the normal numbers.
Of course, there's more people playing.
When you compare
when you talk about Mythic
to Ny'alotha, it's kind of fascinating.
I mean, early on in the expansion.
It is a little rough for the game. Remember, the Ny'alotha was BFA's 4th raid tier. Sepulchre is only Shadowlands' 3rd. Yet, 6,111 guilds cleared Rathian in the first 3 months, while only 3,808 had cleared Sepulchre's first boss within 3 months.
Oh.
That does look like a decline in Mythic participation to me.
Looks like a decline in
Jailer
WoW
versus
population.
N'Zoth is also quite funny. 177 Jailer kills in this time frame, 383 N'Zoth in this time frame.
Yeah.
So no matter what way you cut it, it is clear that Sepulchre
just surviving until I get my kids out of the house.
With numbers.
Sounds about right.
I mean, in a big way, this is all rather shocking for the game, and it's clearly the impetus for Blizzard's successive nerfs. And what's shocking to me is that this raid tier was so much more accessible than other ones in the Shadowlands expansion.
The Jailer not being a good story definitely impacts raid participation. Yes, I totally agree, crew. Take, for example, Gul'dan, right? When he killed Varian and his story and all that shit, I wanted to kill Gul'dan. I wanted to kill him, right? I was motivated to get in there and to, oh God, I want to say Suramar. It's not called Suramar, but the Suramar raid. I wanted to get in there and kill him because he was a end boss that was worth killing. His story was, impactful enough that I wanted to get in there and beat the shit out of him. As for the Jailer, I just thought he was a punk the whole time trying to ruin the lore of the game. Honestly, I could care less for him. Yeah, Reyna's right, Draz. Come raid Mythic with us. It takes a while to build up these groups, though. We'll see how far along we get. We might run some keys or something, because this could take a while.
Catalyst. With all that power and less friction to get characters up to speed.
By the time you got to the Jailer, you just wanted to kill and be done. Yes, true.
How has this raid managed to produce such dismal numbers? Well, time to find out. So Sepulchre has gone down as one of the hardest, if not the hardest, raids in WoW's history, in addition to being the most nerfed. It has a record number of very difficult mythic bosses with many unforgiving mechanics that have to be nerfed into oblivion to get the average cutting-edge guild to clear. And you've got to remember, an average cutting-edge mythic raiding guild is,
went out the window in
overall
Shadowlands,
terms, a very high-end, very highly skilled guild.
How far have we gotten in Mythic so far, Draz? Not very far.
So what went wrong then?
We have not killed the first boss.
Why are the bosses like that?
We've attempted them, but we haven't killed them yet.
Did they misjudge their own player power systems or their own players? Well, while this graph is a bit rough, it's not very ideal or completely accurate with its scale, I think it does serve to illustrate a point. And that point is that player power
what should have happened and what happened
so early on in the Race to World First guilds that very little power was actually gained later on.
Yeah, I mean, you had your
power gains later
your
on,
double legendaries and your set bonuses.
The difficulty of raid bosses for everyone else. Okay, why?
They had to nerf the amount of
wonder if it's the tuning requirements
anima he was injecting into his nipples.
That's an event where guilds are putting in more and more insane preparation than ever, and I'm going to take you through some of that. You see, with split runs, Race to World First guilds are able to accelerate through World of Warcraft's gearing curve at breakneck pace.
True.
Even more so nowadays, because these guilds are also large, well-funded social media organizations that have got legions of dedicated fans.
Well, really, I think the main problem and how quickly these guilds are gearing up for raid is Draz the Pally's carries through Mythic Pluses. It's very obvious that Method and Liquid and all of them are just going into Draz's stream and getting carried through Mythic Pluses and getting geared out for the raid. I think that's the main problem.
Actually pay those fans World of Warcraft gold to help them with split runs. Right? Those fans are then able to trade desirable pieces of loot to the raid team. And the amount of gold spent is just eye-watering. So using just Liquid, who were previously called Limit.
Yeah, I mean, these organizations are way bigger than they were.
We see that Liquid spent
4 expansions ago.
723 million gold on the Sepulchre, while Echo spent 694 million gold. For Sanctum, Liquid spent 279 million, while Echo spent 478 million gold. That's a lot of gold.
That's a lot of
almost enough
gold.
To max out a Diablo Immortal character.
Yeah.
Well, not really. This stuff, of course, does fluctuate from tier to tier, but Sepulchre was the most expensive tier, and I think that number
it was because you had to get your second legendary, too.
The upshot is that these guilds get a huge power spike very early on because split runs let them condense many weeks of loot progress into like 2 or so weeks. Because of this, Blizzard had to tune later Sepulchre of the First One's bosses to that power level, because if they didn't, the race would just end up being a cakewalk.
Right.
Now, this meant that Blizzard were tuning those bosses for nearly maxed out gear with both double legendaries and a 4-piece set bonus.
What's up? Good morning, Ant Grove.
I suppose a part of this is that it would never have been possible to defeat Jailer before the first reset because he literally wasn't available. Now, anyway, this tuning from Blizzard meant that by the time that average cutting-edge Mythic guilds got to Anduin and beyond, they were actually at the same power level as the Race to World First Raiders, and they couldn't really exceed it that much. Something that
Blizzard's given up on this, though.
Possible in pretty much every moment.
Ian said, like, he was like, that's it, we give up. We give up. Like, we're not going to try to keep up with the massive organizations that are these Mythic run guilds, like Liquid and Method and all of it. They just said, like, fuck it. If you guys are going to clear the raid in the first week it drops, that's what's going to happen. Now they're going to tune the raids to just be fun, right? To not have 6 mechanics that can one-shot the raid because somebody fucked it up. They're just going to make these fights more fun, more exciting, you know, less punishing, and just I think, a better raiding experience overall, which I'm looking forward to because we're going to be raiding a shit ton on this stream.
Raid tier.
Which is for the best. Yeah, I agree, Antero.
Players just weren't able to gradually outgear the bosses, meaning that with that not being possible, Blizzard had to increase clear rates by nerfing these bosses.
Yeah, you just got to nerf them into the ground. That's the only way to do it.
Or not, tuning bosses not
What's
only
up, Kakarot?
For incredibly well-geared
Good morning.
characters, but also for that and being the best, most well-prepared raiders in the world.
Yeah.
Nerfs happen pretty much every tier, but what's different is the extent here. These were not just
massive
minor number
nerfs.
Changes to account for a lack of gradual power.
They were not just number changes. I mean, we saw the Jailer, you know, his gavel doesn't even knock people back anymore in Heroic. Like, they're not just, like, item changes, right? Like, just bringing down the item level of something. These are massive changes, like completely deleting mechanics from the fights.
No. Some Mythic mechanics have been flat out removed. Others, while not completely gone, are essentially nerfed to basically not exist when compared to their original state. The sheer amount and frequency of nerfs is unprecedented when compared to previous raid tiers in the World of Warcraft. So clearly then, the scale of the Race to World First is kind of getting away from Blizzard. It makes it extremely hard for Blizzard to actually nail their tuning here. This means nerfs. Those nerfs then cause confusion and discontent. And that trickles down from the Mythic Raiders to people who watch them, to the other difficulties. Because those with the most skin in the game often set the tone for the conversation.
Yep.
Regardless of if that's actually their intent or not. And then that begs the question, what do the leaders of these organizations have to say?
Leaders they had like the leaders of Liquid and shit.
Liquid, Scripe leads Echo. What do they think? Well, per max, bosses tend to be tuned to be killable within week 1 in the race. That means killable without a second week of split runs, mythic gear, and in this case, things like double legendaries. Of course, it's a bit different this raid tier because for narrative reasons,
the double legendary, I'm telling you guys, changed things.
Content to be in the next week. Now, this is why there is, the sort of first reset thing. That's why there's always a lot of tension and excitement in the race as it's leading up to the first reset.
Mm-hmm.
I'll take some numbers here for you. So, Denathrius opened on the 15th of December. He was killed 8 days later on the 23rd. Sylvanas
almost right before Christmas.
On the 13th of July. She died on the 20th. The Sepulchre race started on
oh my
9th,
god.
But the final 3 bosses only unlocked the following week. And that ultimately led to a situation where Zovaal ended up being defeated on the 26th. A full 17 days after the race began. That is just more resets of player power that Blizzard had to tune Jailer and his mates for in order to have a good level of challenge for these players who are the most competitive on the planet.
Right.
Plus, as Max points out, the raid was actually just really hard. The bosses required
It's
extremely
fucking
precise
hard.
positioning,
It
and
is
they
very
had
hard.
binary pass-fail mechanics that slowed down progression,
Yep.
making it harder for the sorts of guilds who would tend to just limp closer.
I mean, if you guys remember on this stream, we had gotten to a point where we were clearing not Sepulchre of the first one, Sanctum of Domination. We used to clear normal runs in a couple hours, and we were doing heroic like in a day, sometimes we had 2 days, right? We're nowhere near that still. Even this deep into this patch, we still are not clearing heroic that easily. And we just did our first normal full clear in a single day last week on Friday. So it's taken us quite a while to get to that point, whereas back in Sanctum of Domination, it was pretty quick. We started clearing normal right away, like in a single day. So this raid was certainly much more difficult and overtuned.
Per Scripe, then, what split runs do for gearing is a massive problem, and he thinks that them not being possible would be good for them as Mythic Raiders, because it would be, they wouldn't have to do it, and it sucks, but it would also be good for the casual players, in his view. I would presume that would be because it would make Blizzard's balance job a bit less mad, and that would be sort of good for all the players. But because big guilds are the only ones who have got the logistics to actually do split runs in this way,
right,
and pay millions of gold to trade loot.
Right.
It's one of those things where, yeah, there might be more. It's a bit like the tax code. The more complex it gets, the more it favors people with lots of money who can afford a good accountant.
Sure.
Now,
that makes
Scripe
sense.
also talked about removing barriers, and for him that means things like removing covenant requirements for soul binds, the creation catalyst being there in day one, the game being more alt-friendly, which thankfully they're doing for the next expansion.
Yes.
And reducing the impact of split runs. Also for him, reducing the need for add-ons by tweaking fight implementation, and then just like less odd things like people feeling they've got to farm Sylvanas daggers. So that all makes sense to me. And one thing I kind of keep on noticing
people still want the bow from her
is
too.
a lot of the things that, say, Scripe would say that, in a way are going to be good for the Race to the World first and that kind of sphere of the game, they're generally quite good for the rest of the game too, because it mostly involves just making the design of WoW a bit more reasonable. So all this stuff makes sense. It would help to level the playing field, it would increase the game's playability, and likely result in Blizzard having an easier time balancing their game. And that's good, because if balancing is easier, then it can be done with less issues, and they can move on to other tasks that are also important.
Right.
As for me, look, my opinion.
WoW and a
does
cup
not
of
matter
coffee.
here. It just
Still pretty
doesn't.
good one.
The strict 20-player format makes
That's a good
Mythic
way to start your
impossible
morning,
for my
Edgrove.
guild. That's just it. The current way Mythic's done will never appeal to me. And that's very much unlike how Warcraft was before, something that I think a lot of modern players won't even be aware of these days. And that is that the raid formats were restructured in 2014. You see, back in the day, you used to have 10 and 25, and they had a heroic mode. The heroic mode was equivalent to today's Mythic. But because there was a 10-player and a 25-player mode, it would mean that a more casual friends and family guild that's only really fielding like 10 to 12 raiders, they would be able to dip in to the hardest difficulty mode in the game without, changing the format and the social
I've
tone
talked
of
about
their
this
guild.
before. I really
So
think
that just
heroic
meant
is the
that
real end
friends
game
and
of
family
World of
guilds,
Warcraft.
Once they were done with heroic,
Anything
they could actually
beyond
have some fun
Mythic
because
is just a
seeing what already
hardcore
Mythic
mode.
is like.
It's just a hard mode.
So
but heroic
that's
is
just
like
a
the
gripe
real
that I have, and it's why
end game.
a lot of this discussion will never apply to me personally.
Saved by the nerfs.
All right, so it's actually been a little while since the rest of this video was recorded.
Different
All
angle.
of our numbers were for the first 3 months of the raid tier. But of course, there have been a few more up-to-date things, so I want to hop in here and give you guys a bit of an update. Right. So these numbers do not change the fact that Sepulchre is the hardest raid basically in history.
Yeah,
And that it had all-time low participation at every
heroic
difficulty
is the goal of the
bracket.
most casual
Like,
players.
that's
Yeah.
insane. And to me, it's kind of depressing
is.
because honestly, I really
Mythic
enjoyed
should
the
only
raid when I
drop
hopped into
cosmetic.
it.
That's an interesting
But
thought,
we
crew.
want to see how it changed. So, how did the nerfs go? That's the big question. Well, as of the week just before the big, and I think most likely the final massive nerf wave, we did see that the number of guilds that have defeated the Chuckler went up to
The Chuckler.
453.
That's a big
A
jump.
month before that point in time, that number was 177. So
Yeah,
that's
it's a big
massive
jump.
change. And looking through some of the other numbers, we see, Anduin, Lords of Dread, they've almost doubled. Rygalon, 2.5 times increase, almost a 2.5 times increase. And those are numbers that don't actually reflect the most recent
Is Mythic
wave of
Raglan like
nerfs.
impossible or
Now,
something?
for those
I
nerfs-
don't find Raglan to be harder than Anduin. Like in my Like, in our progression, Anduin killed us a lot more than Ragallon did, but he looks more difficult and based on these numbers.
Funny. So from a single day of the latest and probably final nerf wave being active, 134
just
guilds
tuning in, you allowing anyone in the raid? Sillies, right now we're trying to build up Mythic raid. I'm not sure if it's going to happen, honestly. And if it doesn't, we're just going to start doing some Mythic Plus runs for keys.
Across EU and NA, right? Now that's kind of crazy as a number because that is actually over 45% more kills than all of the previous week combined in one day. Big,
Damn.
Right? And for the other bosses, they do have day one numbers that basically don't eclipse last week's numbers, but they are all still quite high, which just basically means we're going to see so many kills, at least compared to the trickle that we had seen over the next.
Andy
like,
just more unforgiving due to single-person responsibility. Yes, exactly. What's up, Rez? Please, good morning.
Some other bit more up-to-date numbers.
Yeah, Anduin just has a ton of one-shot mechanics.
Since the humongous wave nerf to the Jailer, Jailer kills have actually risen by 58%.
Ooh.
Now, the other bosses in total have went,
that's pretty big
5
jump.
to 11%. So you can really see it's big for the Jailer.
Yeah.
Now, there's still about 661 guilds that we can tell from the data who are actually progressing the last 3 bosses of the raid. If you include Anduin, that's 1,235 guilds. So really the big question here for Blizzard and these guilds is,
will they finish
in the number of raid nights
they got one more
week in a week, is that going to be enough to actually get the clear? And
they got one more week
ahead of the curve and cutting edge numbers to be kind of proportionately where Blizzard would actually want them to be. Who knows? Of course, this video can't cover the full consequences of these nerfs
jump into the grave for Jet Games.
We'll know those in 3 weeks. So who knows? Maybe we'll talk about Sepulchre again. There's a bit of me that's kind of tempted to, to hop in and kind of give you guys a number on the normal, heroic, etc. stuff because, I don't do Mythic. I'm not good enough for that. But lots of us do normal and heroic, right?
What's funny is our numbers wouldn't be included in the heroic because we're not a guild.
It was just impossible to fit into this video while still doing like a proper analysis of this Mythic situation. I think for normal and heroic, maybe there's a few other things at play.
Sure.
It's a fascinating situation, though. And certainly this is a situation that Blizzard does not want to repeat.
Yeah, that's not going to happen again. They already agreed.
So it's going to be fascinating.
They're going to completely change how they do raids.
And as an almost final update to this video, on the topic of raiding, well, the quote from Ian Hazacostas is very frank and refreshing. It is...
Oh, man, I didn't think about that. Yeah, we wouldn't count.
He was talking about this whole situation.
That's the quote that I was talking about earlier.
Real challenge they have when these top-end Mythic guilds can just get so optimized and their players are so good. I think Blizzard have really realized to themselves they need to make this content for the average Mythic Raiders. And I think that's what's going to be happening in the next expansion now that our game director who of course himself comes from an encounter design background, now that he's actually very much acknowledged this problem in interviews and in a very frank manner. So it's going to be fascinating to see how raiding will shape up in the Dragonflight expansion.
Interesting.
Okay, right. That's it for today. Thank you to
Not really like
Masterworks. You can see.
Honestly, his title kind of trolled me. I really thought he was going to talk about numbers, as in population numbers. He didn't really get into that, but he did get into the rating numbers, and they certainly are dramatic numbers to look at, as far as people completing things and finishing out the raids in time.